Can you imagine this? While Taiwan's Coast Guard anti-narcotics officers were in the middle of a drug bust, they discovered that what the suspects were selling wasn't drugs, but gold bars that are even more valuable than drugs. So armed and ready, they stormed secret warehouses in Keelung and Nihu, Taipei. Inside, there were 50 units neatly stacked, with a market value reaching 700 million new Taiwan dollars. These were high-end supermicro AI servers, which the United States has classified as top-level strategic secrets. And what's inside them? All of them are equipped with NVIDIA's most advanced computing power, the very technology that Jensen Huang is determined to keep from ever falling into the hands of the Chinese Communist Party. Behind all this is a transnational criminal alliance made up of a mysterious female financier from the Chinese military, a Taiwanese bamboo union gang boss, an esports world champion, and the general manager of a prestigious Taiwanese tech company. They secretly operated in Taiwan, disguising the origin of the goods, and in just 3 years, they managed to rake in an astonishing 10 billion new Taiwan dollars in illicit profits. What methods did these tech insiders use? They were actually able to make the world's most closely watched strategic materials mysteriously disappear right under the nose of the U.S. Department of Commerce and then deliver them straight into the computing power centers of the Chinese military. Hello everyone, this is Wei Yu, Seeing the World. I'm Chen Wei Yu. Today I'm going to share with you this shocking chip smuggling case that has rocked Taiwan, the U.S., and China. The story begins in May 2026, when the Keelung investigation team of Taiwan's Coast Guard received a tip about a transnational smuggling operation. Based on past experience, these kinds of smuggling rings usually involve firearms, drugs, or high-end contraband cigarettes. The investigators spent a long time setting up surveillance and finally pinpointed 2 large secret warehouses in Keelung and Nihu. On May 20th, the operation to close the net began and a large number of law enforcement officers stormed the scene. But they didn't find any heroin. Instead, in the center of the warehouse stood massive machines, gleaming with a metallic sheen and assembled with extreme precision. These weren't ordinary home computers, they were top-tier servers assembled by Supermicro, the global AI giant. Installed inside were none other than NVIDIA's high-end AI chips, which are currently in such high demand worldwide that even with money, you can't get your hands on them. The investigators immediately realized this was no ordinary case. The total value of these 50 servers reached as high as 700 million new Taiwan dollars. This was truly hitting the jackpot. While investigating drugs, they had stumbled upon the most strategically embargoed items at the heart of international politics. Soon after, the Keelung District Prosecutor's Office took over and secretly formed a special task force. As they dug deeper, they were shocked to the core. This black market chip route stretched across Taiwan, the U.S., and China. It had already been operating quietly for 3 years, and the total amount of chips they had smuggled out was unimaginable. The special task force roughly estimated that over these years, their illegal profits had reached at least 300 million U.S. dollars, which is more than 10 billion new Taiwan dollars. Why did the gangs give up drug trafficking and switch to smuggling chips instead? Because the profits from smuggling chips have already far surpassed those from drug trafficking in China's black market. A high-end NVIDIA chip can be resold for several times, or even dozens of times its original price. But what's most unbelievable and even a bit absurd about this case is the awkwardness of Taiwan's laws. When the prosecutors arrested this group and were preparing to apply to the court for their detention, they combed through Taiwan's trade and criminal laws, only to find that there isn't a single specific law in Taiwan that directly punishes the smuggling of AI chips banned by the United States into China. Because these chips are on the U.S. export control list, there's actually an awkward legal gray area in Taiwan's laws. In order to make sure the charges would stick, the prosecutors had no choice but to go around the issue and use charges like document forgery to detain this group of tech insiders first. After the special task force restored the deleted conversations from the phones of the 3 low-level tech guys from Keelung who were arrested, a terrifying villain alliance operating in the shadows and spanning Taiwan, the U.S., and China finally surfaced. And at the core of this alliance, the mastermind turned out to be a mysterious Chinese woman with an extremely sensitive identity. Who exactly is she? And how did she manage to skillfully maneuver between the legal and illegal worlds in Taiwan, moving hundreds of millions in funds? We'll get into the details in a moment, but first, a quick commercial break. 250 years ago, this land of America gave countless people the chance to pursue freedom. So, at this moment full of historical significance, our long-term partner, the premium e-commerce brand Blueberry Select, is launching a special promotion to celebrate freedom and protect health for America's 250th Independence Day. Until July 31st, just click the link below to buy whatever you want. And when you check out, enter my exclusive promo code WEIU. Not only will you get a 15% discount, but you'll also receive a special limited edition Independence Day gift to take home. This time, the gifts are specially made for the 250th anniversary. Beautiful commemorative coins, for example. There are also commemorative national flags. Just look at the flag behind me. All of these are in limited supply and will be given out while supplies last. For more details on how to get them, you can check the comments section. All right, let's continue by introducing our star product, the Jeju Island Red Sea Cucumber Wellness Gel from Korea. Why is it often in such high demand that supply can't keep up? It's because the wild Red Sea cucumbers are hand-harvested by the Hanyo, female divers, of Jeju Island, and their yield is actually extremely limited. And even more importantly, its repurchase rate is incredibly high. Many of our viewers have their whole families taking it together. If you often feel tired, have trouble sleeping, or lack energy, it's usually a sign that your body has been depleted over time and is running low on vital energy. This Honghai Health Sea Cucumber capsule is rich in sea cucumber saponins, sea cucumber polysaccharides, and collagen, which can help your body gradually restore its vital energy from the inside out. Many viewers have given feedback that after taking it for a while, their sleep has improved. They can sleep soundly through the night, and even long-term issues like leg cramps and joint discomfort have gotten much better. Of course, I want to remind everyone that these effects can vary from person to person. This is a high-quality health supplement, not a medication. Its main purpose is for daily nourishment and maintenance. As we celebrate the 250th anniversary of America's independence, let's soak in the spirit of freedom together and take even better care of our own health and that of our families. With the launch of the second wave of major raids at the end of June and beginning of July, the 4 key players behind this billion-dollar smuggling ring have finally all been exposed. Let's take a look at these 4 individuals one by one. Their cross-industry combination is practically the perfect lineup you'd see in a spy movie. First up is the mastermind and shadowy figure behind the smuggling group, a Chinese woman using the alias Dai Fai, around 50 years old. According to intelligence gathered by the Special Task Force, Dai Fai's background is extremely mysterious, and she's suspected of having ties to the Chinese military. You have to understand, what the Chinese Communist Party lacks most right now isn't money, but computing power, especially with the United States imposing comprehensive blockades. China's supercomputing centers and military research units can't get their hands on the most advanced AI chips. Their military AI development, missile trajectory simulations, and even their cyber and land warfare units are all facing a complete supply cutoff. The absolute order Dai Fei received was to establish an uninterrupted lifeline of computing power overseas at any cost, regardless of the price. This Dai Fei is extremely capable. Not only does he have no shortage of funds, but he's also intimately familiar with the underground money laundering channels and the gray areas of international import and export across mainland China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. But as a Chinese national, he can't place orders directly in the United States. Nor can he pick up goods in Taiwan. So what should he do? That's when he found the second key figure, Wang Kaiping, a well-known member of Taiwan's infamous Bamboo Union gang. Dai Fei transferred huge sums of money to Wang Kaiping through underground financial channels, and Wang Kaiping was responsible for organizing the ground team in Taiwan. So what role did the gang play here? They weren't there to go around attacking people with knives. Instead, they used their unique underworld connections to seek out top tech talent from the legitimate world and to establish secure logistics channels and firewalls. Wang Kaiping was the key underworld link threading everything together. This tightly bound together the CCP's funding, the underworld's execution power, and Taiwan's tech community. With funding in place and the gangs providing protection, the most crucial question comes next. How do they get the goods from the U.S. headquarters? The U.S. Department of Commerce isn't a pushover. Any company wanting to buy these strategic chips must go through extremely strict KYC, Know Your Customer screening. What does your company do? Who are the shareholders? Where are you going to install the chips you're buying? The U.S. government is watching every day. To break through this barrier set by the U.S. federal government, Dai Fei and Wang Kaiping brought in a third key figure. Ahead of an American tech company, this person has a very unique background. He was actually once a world champion in esports. Just think about it. A world champion in esports carries the aura of international fame. He started a tech company in the United States, and when he personally placed an order with Supermicro, the global leader in AI servers, at their U.S. headquarters, the U.S. Department of Commerce's review staff took a look. Oh, the owner of this company is a famous esports figure. He claims he's buying these high-end servers for esports game development and high-end graphics rendering. Doesn't that sound perfectly reasonable without any flaws? So this world champion successfully used his legitimate identity to help the smuggling group obtain the purchasing permit from Supermicro's U.S. headquarters. But just having the U.S. order isn't enough. How do you deliver the goods? How do you ship them? That's where inside help comes in, which brings us to the fourth key figure, the tech insider from Taiwan. The most crucial among them is Wang Shenyi, the business manager of Supermicro's Taiwan branch, as well as Lu Yongkai, the general manager of Qingyan Technology, a listed company in Taiwan and also a Supermicro agent. These high-level executives and business managers in Taiwan's tech industry are used to making big money in the field every day, so why would they still take such a huge risk? The answer comes down to two words: huge profits. The commissions and price differences offered by Dai Fei were astronomical sums that they could never earn in a lifetime as regular employees. What's even more outrageous, according to investigations, the reason why Huang Shangyi, the Taiwan sales manager for Supermicro, was able to get green lights all the way inside the company is because he had strong connections. Two of his relatives held senior management positions at Supermicro's U.S. headquarters. He took advantage of his family ties and his position to manipulate the internal system, helping the smuggling group bypass what should have been Supermicro's strictest internal compliance checks. This created a perfect closed loop for transnational crime. The Chinese Communist Party provided the funding, gangs acted as intermediaries, an American esports champion placed the orders, and high-level insiders in Taiwan's tech industry took the orders. Eventually, the goods were successfully shipped from the U.S. to Taiwan, but these are extremely valuable strategic materials. The U.S. Department of Commerce and Supermicro headquarters staff could come for spot checks at any time, and they would ask to see how these servers were being operated in Taiwan. How did this group manage to pull off such a huge deception right under the noses of customs, shipping dozens of massive machines to China as if out of thin air? When this batch of Supermicro servers equipped with high-end NVIDIA chips arrived in Taiwan, the smuggling ring faced their most dangerous hurdle, live inspection. What does that mean? Because the U.S. has extremely strict controls over these chips. Both the Supermicro headquarters in the U.S. and their Taiwanese agents, Qingyan Technology, are required by regulations to regularly send personnel to conduct on-site inspections at customer locations. They have to see with their own eyes that these machines are plugged in and running programs in data centers in Taiwan to confirm they haven't been secretly sold to sensitive countries. If it were ordinary smugglers, they might just ship the goods out as soon as they got them. But if they did that and the U.S. conducted a random inspection, they'd find the machines missing. An alarm would go off immediately, and the entire operation would be shut down in one go. But this group wanted to do long-term business. They kept it running for 3 whole years. So how did they manage to keep the machines in Taiwan for inspections while also getting them into China's supercomputing centers? After the special investigation team reconstructed the phone conversations of Supermicro sales manager Wang Shangyi and others, they discovered their secret. First, they would place the purchased servers in the Sifang Telecom data center, and only after Supermicro and Qingyan had inspected them would they take further action. Sifang Telecom is a very well-known telecom giant in Taiwan, affiliated with Changhua Telecom, and it owns the most advanced and secure IDC data center facilities in all of Taiwan. Many international tech giants, when setting up cloud services in Taiwan, would rent space in Sifang's data centers. The smuggling ring was extremely cunning. They set up several clean, background-free tech companies in Taiwan as a firewall. Then, these shell companies spent big money They rented expensive high-end data center space from Sifang Telecom. They also asked Sifang to help manage the servers. In this case, Sifang Telecom was simply renting out their data center space. They had no idea what tricks their clients were up to behind the scenes. When Supermicro's servers were moved to Taiwan, they were immediately transported into Sifang Telecom's data center. At this point, if inspectors from Supermicro headquarters or Qingyan Technology came to check, members of the smuggling ring would take the inspectors to Sifang's data center, point at the neatly arranged, humming servers, and say, "Look, all the machines we bought are right here, helping Taiwanese clients process data and conduct R&D. Everything is perfectly compliant." The inspectors left satisfied. However, as soon as the inspectors walked out, the insiders from the smuggling ring would immediately bring in gang-affiliated logistics personnel to rush it to the data center and take away those servers. This is what the industry commonly refers to as the prince in the cat switcheroo at tech assembly sites. They take down and remove the real servers. To avoid raising suspicion from a sudden drop in data center traffic or power usage, they replace them with cheap, identical-looking empty cases or low-end old servers, plugging them in to keep the lights on and the machines running. Then they prepare a full set of export documents at different times. On the customs declaration forms, these tech experts use highly professional methods to rename and reclassify these high-end AI servers. Sometimes they declare them as ordinary home computer parts, and other times as basic network switches that don't require any regulation. Customs has to process tens of thousands of export goods every day, so it's impossible for them to open up every single item and count the chip models inside. Plus, with endorsements from top executives at major Taiwanese companies, this batch of goods was able to be loaded onto the plane without a hitch. To further cut off any leads for the U.S. FBI and Department of Commerce, after this shipment left Taiwan, they would never ship it directly to Beijing or Shanghai. Instead, they take a roundabout route, like first air freighting it to Japan or a transshipment port somewhere in Southeast Asia. The goods would sit in a warehouse in Japan for a while, get a new bill of lading, and erase the original shipping record from Taiwan. After several rounds of transshipment, they'd finally be delivered to Hong Kong. Then, from a secret port in Hong Kong, they'd be transported overnight into mainland China. By the time these servers were plugged back in and started powering the Chinese Communist Party's AI military research, the U.S. Department of Commerce's database would still show these machines quietly sitting in the Sifang Telecom data center in Neihu, Taiwan. They pulled off this elaborate deception for a full 3 years. Hearing all this, you might think this is just a story about a few greedy Taiwanese tech businessmen teaming up with gangsters to exploit legal loopholes and make a fortune. It's not that simple. This same scheme has also appeared in Singapore. At the very same time that Taiwan's Financial Prosecutor's Office launched their raid, a similarly dramatic arrest operation was unfolding thousands of kilometers away in Singapore. The Singaporean prosecutors suddenly took action, adding serious money laundering charges against Wei Xiaolun, the CEO of a local company called Arperia Group, and immediately raised his bail to an astronomical 1.2 million Singapore dollars. At the same time, his luxury residence in Singapore, worth as much as 55 million new Taiwan dollars, was also placed under a police ban prohibiting its sale. So why did Singapore take action as well? Because Singaporean police discovered that Wei Xiaolun, along with 2 other senior executives, Yun Gorji and Lin Zhenny, used exactly the same method to deceive Dell, Supermicro, and Asus, secretly shipping large quantities of top-tier hardware containing NVIDIA AI processors to Taiwan and Singapore. The 2 cases were carried out in exactly the same way. This shows that, under the secret operations of the Chinese military and intelligence agencies, this underground black market for relabeling chip origins has already been woven into a network throughout Southeast Asia and Taiwan. What's even more shocking is that this incident directly implicated Supermicro's U.S. headquarters. Do you still remember that major indictment launched by the U.S. Department of Justice this March that rocked the tech industry? At that time, Supermicro's co-founder Charles Lang and others were formally indicted by U.S. federal prosecutors on charges of allegedly shipping servers worth up to $2.5 billion to China by relabeling their origin through Southeast Asia. This is also why Supermicro, the global leader in AI servers, has recently suffered a sharp drop in its stock price on the US stock market and is now deeply embroiled in an investigation. From the co-founder's indictment in March to the end of June and early July, when the business manager of the Taiwan branch was taken away by the Keelung District Prosecutor's Office, this is no longer something that can be dismissed as just the actions of individual employees. This has practically become a huge nightmare for Supermicro's founder, Charles Liang. While Jensen Huang is working tirelessly on R&D at the front, Charles Liang is working just as hard on assembly at the back. But in the end, their own backyard has already been riddled with holes by the Chinese Communist Party's intelligence network, from the core executives at the U.S. headquarters to the grassroots staff at the Taiwan branch, and even to the distributor, Keyun Technology. A dark chain of interest has already formed, operating from the top down for many years. Remember, not long ago, Jensen Huang publicly declared that Blackwell and the latest Rubin chips must absolutely not fall into China's hands. NVIDIA is even willing to let its market share in China drop to zero if necessary. This is the bottom line for U.S. national security, and it's also NVIDIA's commitment to the global democratic alliance. But the reality is so ironic. The Chinese Communist Party always manages to exploit the loopholes of democracy and the weaknesses of human nature to sneak things through. For Taiwan, the outbreak of this case is definitely not something that can be resolved just by arresting 6 defendants and having the companies issue statements and suspend them. The political tsunami it has triggered in international politics is only just beginning. If Taiwan can't plug this loophole, the price it may have to pay in the future could be so great that the entire tech industry in Taiwan wouldn't be able to bear it. Do you understand what I mean by that? Have you ever thought about why this happened in Taiwan? What does this mean for Taiwan's future? Taiwan has always been known as the AI island, with the world's most advanced semiconductor manufacturing technology and the most complete server assembly supply chain globally. All of America's top chips, whether it's wafer foundry or not, or back-end packaging and assembly, almost all of it relies on Taiwan. But precisely because of this, Taiwan has become the most lucrative and easiest hunting ground in the eyes of the Chinese Communist Party. In this case, we can see that the reason the smuggling chain was able to operate smoothly and make $10 billion in 3 years exposes 3 fatal weaknesses in Taiwan at this stage. First, human greed and the lack of national security awareness. The general manager of Qingyun Technology involved in the case and the business manager of Supermicro are both tech elites cultivated in Taiwan. But when faced with money, the risks of geopolitics and the security of the Taiwan Strait all became commodities they were willing to sell out. This kind of traitorous behavior, biting the hand that feeds you, is gradually eroding the international community's trust in Taiwan. Second, there are huge loopholes in Taiwan's legal system. As I mentioned earlier, up until this case broke out, Taiwan actually didn't have a single specific law that could severely punish this kind of high-level chip smuggling. Prosecutors could only charge them with document forgery, like businessmen falsifying accounts. In this kind of legal environment, where the rewards are high and the risks are low, catching one Wang Shangyi doesn't guarantee there won't be a second or third smuggling group getting ready to make their move. Third, and this is the most dangerous point, Taiwan is becoming the biggest relay station and weak link in the enforcement of U.S. technology bans. In order to block the Chinese Communist Party, the U.S. government has gone so far as to sacrifice the interests of its own tech giants, introducing the strictest chip export controls in history. But when the U.S. looked back, it found that its most trusted partner, Taiwan, had become a loophole, allowing people to blatantly launder the origin of these chips and ship them into China. It's just like how the U.S. treats Canada. As its most trusted neighbor, it gave them the best deals, but then the neighbor opened the door, giving the Chinese Communist Party an opportunity to exploit. Will the U.S. Pentagon and Department of Commerce start to wonder, is it really safe for us to have our most advanced Blackwell chips and the next generation of high-end technology produced in Taiwan? If one day the United States completely loses confidence in its oversight of Taiwan and decides to restrict chip authorizations to Taiwan, or requires that all assembly and testing of high-end chips must be withdrawn from Taiwan and moved back to the U.S. or allied countries, at that point, for Taiwan's tech industry and economy, I think that would be a truly devastating blow. This is the most chilling warning behind this multi-billion-dollar smuggling case. Taiwan's Silicon Shield doesn't just need technological leadership, it also requires strict systems and a steadfast commitment to universal values. I also hope that Taiwan will stay vigilant. It's not too late to fix the problem after a setback. Alright, what are your thoughts on this case where gangsters and tech elites teamed up to smuggle billions worth of chips? How do you think Taiwan should amend its laws to put an end to this kind of origin washing? Feel free to leave your comments below and join Wei Yu in the discussion. If you enjoyed our in-depth analysis today, please remember to like, subscribe, and share it with more friends. Alright, see you next time.